Hello, welcome to Conversations with Life. I'm Xochi, and I'm here with Cedar and Keith, and we are working our way through this season talking about group field work and the different ways and technologies that we can be in this kind of season of transformation and change collectively and globally. I think a lot of us feel the tension of the current times, and that like we all have this sort of sense of doom, like something's got to give. And I think one of the things that we can do to buoy ourselves during times of huge transformation is feel into what's coming. And I think this group field work is a really big part of that. And I think also an answer to a big piece of our longing, as we kind of ended our last episode with that longing to be seen and held and celebrated and supported in real time, not just as a role that we were assigned either at birth or when we, signed the contract for the job or whatever, but as a human being that has life moving through me in this moment. There's something new emerging all the time, and having to hold myself to different roles and identities is actually stressing me out and shutting off my life force. And so as we reorient to group and talk about orienting ourselves around a center that is life instead of one person or idea or dogma, it becomes pretty quickly apparent that we have a broken relationship with our planet, with Earth, that there's even a question of Earth being able to survive what humans have done to it, and if the human race can survive much longer given what it has done to Earth. And I think that those are, interesting things to sit in. But what I want to move us into is my curiosity and my sense is that each of us has, at some point in our life, felt connected to Earth in a deep way. And it might have just been for a moment during a really incredible sunset. But I also am curious about our connection to certain places on the earth. And so, part of the structure around this episode is an experience that Cedar and I have had with some land in California. But to start out, I just want to ask both of you, if you can think of a moment in your childhood where you felt without the people there, even if there were people there, but it wasn't about the people, you felt this connection to land, like, oh, I feel home here, or this is my place, or like I want to come back here. Or you felt like nature giving you some kind of a transmission.
It's like funny and super obvious, but for me, the beach has always been that place. It's like where the ocean meets the land, and it's, a place of chaos and change and craziness, but also like steady, holding. And it especially probably doesn't help that I was always overweight, but the lightness you feel in the water just feels like being embraced. So from as young as I can remember, any time we were in the water, beach or pool, but more beach than anything else, right? Like the salt in your skin and the sun and the taste of the water and being thrown around, all the things, right? There was not a part of being in the ocean I didn't love. So that's always kind of felt like a space to connect where it doesn't matter. By myself, with 100 people, completely irrelevant. Summer, winter, doesn't matter. It's just a wonderful place.
Do you feel like it matters which ocean you're in? Do you feel a different quality or almost personality to the different waters you've been in?
Mediterranean or Sydney feels really similar to me, which they're not similar oceans at all, right? Like Mediterranean is a warmer ocean. It's, less teeming with life than the Great Barrier Reef, for example, right? But they've always felt the same. It's like the water feels the same. America feels like what it feels like. So, I've been to California, Oregon, so the West Coast. Going to those beaches feels like what it used to feel like going to a lake after going to a beach. It's like, technically I'm getting what I need, but it's not really where I want to be. Like better than being in the mountains, but not as good as being home. Kind of thing. So I don't know. Maybe that's more of like my own feelings. I think I've been really clear about my feelings about my current geographical status, but there's a lot of things to love here, but that's sort of how it feels.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hold it fairly lightly, but I'm really curious about our soul and its journey with Earth. And there actually being certain places that either maybe we've been before or that we're meant to be, that we feel like almost like connected to the soul of the earth there more than other places. And it sounds kind of woo-woo, but like, let's say that different areas of the ocean had a different soul quality to them. Do you feel like that would correlate with your sense?
I think actually no. Like I'm thinking about the feeling of, Venice Beach or San Diego or whatever. And California, being in the beach there, has always felt very light and playful and fun. Mediterranean has always been like, I think it's probably the warmth, but is more of an embrace. And then Australia is more of like the chaos energy. And maybe it's the overabundance of great white sharks that make that area their home, or maybe it's just that's where I learned to swim, or maybe it's just that's how the ocean is there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it doesn't correlate to my feeling in each necessarily, because Australia and Mediterranean feel very similar.
Yeah. So, let's say that it's true that your soul has a connection to a certain place, that you're meant to go and give a gift or have some kind of special experience, and you had to name that right now. Like, that's a lot of ifs. But is there a place that you're like, this is the place that is meant for me and I'm meant for it? Do you have any sense of that?
I definitely have a strong pull towards like Malta and stuff like that. Like, it's funny because I spent most of my life in Australia, but Malta feels like a going home in a really interesting way.
And you've been there?
Yeah. Okay. Like I spent the first 6 years of my life there and went there for a couple months every couple of years, and most recently was there for 3 weeks with my family. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. What about you, Cedar? What's your kind of life experience, and like, if that was a thing, like, where would you?
I feel very connected to a lot of land. Like, I think about my childhood home, and we happened to be on some property, and there were trees all over that, and every one of those trees was a buddy. Like, I crawled through those juniper bushes like a rat. I was
straight out of a classic American novel.
Those things are gnarly.
They are, but they were like little holes and like tunnels through those things. I really, as a boy, really reveled in the earth. And then my dad always planted this huge garden, and I worked in it all summer, and that always felt nourishing and interesting to me. And so much of my childhood was being part of the land. And there's a little forest down below, and I would just run around in that thing, like it was kind of this wild part of land that was probably owned by somebody, but that wasn't developed,
Not policed by anyone?
Not policed by anybody. It was just let wild, and so we would run through that. And so much of my youth is that outside existence. as a child. So there's definitely a connection there, which that property has been unfortunately developed, and they cut down all the trees and made it into some big yard, and brought in other things that aren't supposed to be there, and just all sorts of ridiculous things. So there's that. There's a few places that have soul resonance with me. One is Lake Blanche. That I visited as a Boy Scout and hiked to a couple times, and once right before I was going on my mission, LDS mission, we were there, and it just struck me, and I had to go back and be there for a minute, So every time I go there, I feel this kind of resonance. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. Certain places in Zion's Canyon have had that experience, but so many places, it's I wonder if we don't choose that access, or does it choose us?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But Plotkin talks about this thing about soul encounter, and definitely nature is a part of that for me. And there's been places where it's just this is as much inside as it is outside. There's this interesting feeling where it's just kind of you drop in as part of that place. It resonates so dearly that you're just there in it, and the nature of my being was that those experiences would happen all the time, continually. When I was a kid, I felt myself as a tree, and it was a non-dual. Me and the tree were the same being, and I can't even. That's such a profound experience in my memory that I can't even divide it out. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's really interesting. So many of those experiences for me are there. So many experiences on so many mountains and so many canyons and so many places. So yeah, it's interesting to think about. Is there a particular place? I don't know. So many places. The land in California, certainly. I mean, good gods. It resonates in a way. The Nevada City area generally resonates. The Zion's Canyon, deep desert in Joshua Tree, that kind of thing resonates. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to divide that out. So
yeah, just. The question is more important, right? Yeah, I'm remembering this very first retreat I went on, and it was a wild woman retreat in Moab, and we were in Moonflower Canyon, and we went down all the way down to the end of the canyon. There's kind of a grotto and a little tiny pool, and we sat on the sandbar there and did a little bit of ceremony, and I was just so connected. I think the first thing we did was we all were served hape, and then we broke into Earth Song. And we're sitting on this sandbar, and it was in this grotto. So it was just one of the most beautiful experiences that you can have to literally sing whatever comes through, that Earth is sending through you with a group of women. And I remember just feeling I feel like I was born here. And after that, having a few other experiences with places and land where a similar quality would hit me. I think I was born here. Was just, kind of the phrase I used around it in a, kind of a cute way. But I'm really being with that as I explore deeper into my connection with Earth as a being, and with land and soul and what's possible there. And I remember the first time as a child going to the ocean, and that being a moment where I felt almost grief that I had waited so long, and that I would have to wait another, long time, all based on my parents. At that point, your parents control everything, right?
Yep.
And our chances of being back in California anytime soon were small. And And then we drove all the way up the coast. And so I had a specific kind of sense in Southern California. And then we drove up the coast and went up to see some family in Sacramento. And I was, I think, 11 years old. And when it was time to go home, like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't make myself get in the car. There was such a connection, and I knew it was going to be such a, like, tearing almost. I felt like I was being taken away from my home almost. I actually hid in the closet. I convinced myself that my parents would leave my suitcase on the driveway and just leave. I was way too old to convince myself of that.
Wow.
And it wasn't until I heard them talking about calling the police that I came out of my hiding spot. And it was just like, I don't think I'll ever live that down with my cousins. And my dad was so angry. I don't think he's ever been so angry. And, you know, so I was like, okay, that just ended up being some like weird thing that I had to try to live down for the rest of my life until I went back last year, 2024, I guess 2 years ago now. My friend asked me to move her from Utah to Humboldt County. And we went through Nevada City and spent some time there. And I'm just like, I'm remembering this thing. I get on this land and something happens. Like my whole being wakes up. And then driving her all the way out to the coast and being with the redwoods and the waters out there, like moved to weeping multiple times just by the nature and the land. And then later that year, Cedar and I getting invited to go spend some time at the Wisdom Sanctuary outside of Nevada City. And I was just like, I always feel like kind of, like I almost can't talk about it because it's so stupid to be like, I go to this place because I'm in love with this land. Like it really feels like a romance almost. And when I go there, I get to talk to Earth in a way that it's not accessible anywhere else. And then, you know, we returned again this year and had a really, really powerful experience. I think this year in particular, because everybody was simply going, it was basically a call out to anybody who felt a connection to this particular land to just come and listen to the land and listen to life and see what happens. And yeah, it was pretty amazing. What comes through for you on that, Cedar?
Yeah, I mean the you know what we talked about in the last episode on community and this idea that community is built around life principle. And life principle is built largely on earth. Right? So what honors the earth, honestly, honors life. And that includes our own earth, our being, you know, our bodies. And so to me, that was a deep listening on a lot of levels. And the people listening to the land, and you know, there's some mythology tied to this land in groups that we're organized with, and that's all good and fine. I don't believe anything, and I experience a lot, you know. And but yeah, every time I step onto that land, I weep. Like honestly, it's just like there's something there, and I can name it in a way, but when I name it, it'll be misunderstood, and I can say temple. And I think we've always felt this. I think Brigham Young, when he arrived in Salt Lake City and walked out in the middle and said, "This is the place. We put a temple here," right? In a way, it's that sense. I feel connected to this process. And, you know, he was. He was. Like, the the LDS people, the Mormons, they built their land here, and it was an important part of their process, and probably an important part of the spiritual maturity of the world.
Of the United States, for sure.
Of the United States, yeah.
And it still is, in some ways, there's like a sanctuary or haven here. Like, there are things that have been preserved by the Mormon culture that I think are important. And people are moving here in droves because there's something here that was cultivated and preserved that I think is important.
Yeah, there's a teaching of this land, and there's also disharmony here. And we're going to dry up our lake, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
and then we'll all either die or flee.
Right.
to get back, you know, a little bit off of that, I think sitting with the Great Salt Lake and our disharmony with it here is a counterpoint to that temple feeling, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's one of the harmony and disharmony of land is so stark right here.
Yeah, or even when we went out to...
We are with water here.
When we went out to and sat on top of Kennecott.
Right.
And looked in that gaping chasm that you can see from space.
Yeah.
Of just pure extraction of this glorious wilderness, you know?
Of a place that used to be just a paradise. That whole, you know, that West Bench used to be, that whole canyon, beautiful area has just been demolished.
Yep.
And for our good in a lot of ways. And so there's this tension there with land, which is interesting. We'll get back to it. But temple, right? And this land particularly, a lot of people feel temple on this California land, Nevada City land, right? And there's something about that. And I think in some ways we bring our stories to it. But in some ways what I feel are that there are natural vortexes and places of energy. The earth is a living being, and it has chakras, and it has energy process, perhaps, you know. Mm-hmm. And its system, our energy systems are built upon its system, and it's part of a larger system, right? So, you know, a lot of, we're feeling our little selves and our little thoughts and minds and processes going through, but we're part of systems that are part of systems that are part of systems. See, that's not arguable. You know, that's how it is. Yeah. Right?
We have enough science to prove that.
We have enough science to prove we're part of systems. But the subtlety of those systems is what we haven't shown. And I think what we're going to find is that the subtlety of those systems is remarkable. And people like Tesla and others tapped into some of this process. You know, the ancients knew that, and they built up the pyramids of Giza and so forth. And they built temple. And they built process that reflected the larger systems. And those systems are part of larger systems. And all that is happening, and we're just an expression of that process, right? In a way, so small. But then you have this really interesting principle that every drop of water contains the ocean, and that every genetic imprint contains the whole story. You know? And so you have this really thing where my little microcosm is the macrocosm. And that macrocosm is expressing through and in me, right?
Your body is the universe.
And somehow when those systems meet, we call it temple. We call it centering. We feel centered. We feel seen, held, known in a way, you know. And I think our experience with land is really important because we can get out of process with land and into this using mentality that we've been into, in this materialist thing, out of harmony, and it automatically takes us out of center. And then we're going to have to find other centers. And those centers are unsatisfying. Our own power expressed in, you know, our harvesting of other human beings, our use of material, our use of our cleverness to create manipulation in a natural way that creates disharmony in everything, right? So much of that is miscentered. But also consciousness leaves itself to find itself. And what happens is then that the opportunity is then to come back and use any of what we found out to then recenter ourselves back into harmony with that. But temple is the key.
And it seems like in that process that when you come back, greater harmony is possible because your consciousness has been expanded. And I think I have to remind myself of that over and over again when I see things that aren't working, or I see how far from centeredness or harmony we've come. It, like, part of me wants to collapse into that because it's so disheartening. But if I remind myself from this place, I can go back to center, and a greater field of connection and richness and harmony is possible because I now know something that I couldn't have known had I not left.
Yeah. Well, it's like we're experiencing springtime in January here. The lawns in Salt Lake are all green, and it was 50 degrees yesterday and fairly balmy in Salt Lake City. It snowed in the morning a little bit, sleeted a little bit, but then it just cleared up into this beautiful spring day. And this morning the sun was out, and I felt like, oh, it's April. Some of the trees think so too. They're starting to bloom. Like it's craziness. Something in my system goes wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong.
I feel weird.
Wrong. No.
My system is just like,
this is not. This is a false spring.
It's so funny. I get none of that.
Really?
No, because I mean, like right now, like this is summer in Australia.
Yeah.
So my whole body's just like, fuck it, whatever it is, it is.
Yeah.
Like whatever, just screw it.
Yeah, you're built in a different land and a different rhythm.
Yeah, so
sure.
I'm off all the fucking time. But what's interesting to me is just how it affects everything. Like even I went to the I went to the gym today, but I went to the gym today and yesterday morning. And on the way yesterday, I was like, oh, God, I'm so tired. I don't want to do this. I'm so frustrated. And then today, I'm like practically singing in the car on the way to the gym. Right? And what's the difference? The sun is out.
uh-huh.
Right? I was with the same person. I was exercising a similar muscle group. I knew exactly how long I was going to go for. I had the same amount of protein, but the sun was out.
Uh-huh.
And so it's interesting to me because we talk about opposites need to happen and consciousness leads itself to meet itself, blah, 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 blah. But everything we experience has to affect us in some way. And it's just such a weird thing to me to be like, doesn't matter where I am. If it's better lit, I feel better. Something is weirdly, like, why is it any different from yesterday to today? Temperatures are about the same, winds about the same, but the sun was out,
Yeah, it's interesting. Seasons and moods and processes. The advantage of the feminine is that they get to cycle, and they get to feel the pain of that cycle and the process of that cycle and the joy of that cycle. Innately connected to the land in a way that the masculine body is, but can ignore if it wants to, where the feminine body doesn't get to choose, and in sunlight, there's a particular types of energy that want to come through us, right? And those we can interpret as happiness or whatever. In wintertime, there is a melancholy that comes into us. If we're paying attention to the land, we're listening to the melancholy of the dying land. And that part, that's another shrine in the temple that needs to be honored. To me, that's just another piece of humanity that I need to be with. And I celebrate a winter day when I can't go outside. Oh, I love that. I love when it snows so much and it's so cold and it's so miserable that I have to my life is shut down, right? I love that feeling. It's painful. It's sometimes difficult, right? It creates disharmony with the modern life that thinks it can do whatever it wants, whenever it wants. And which is why it's so wonderful. It's just, I love it when nature wins. And in a way,
it's like, fuck
society.
All your expectations.
It's a snow day. Fuck off.
See, I don't know what's causing this warm trend in January. I don't know. It could just be a thing, blip on the radar of of life and humanity. Maybe this is totally natural. Maybe it's global warming and man-made process that disturbs our environment and creates disharmony in the seasonal process. I don't know. I can suspect. But I know that there's part of me that moves out of harmony with that and sees the dysregulation, right? And just like any dysregulation, like it sees it. And this is the thing, right? It's like, are we listening, or are we building a wall between ourselves and nature, right? I think walls between ourselves and nature are really good. Like, I want to be warm, you know.
They can
like
be very helpful. Central heating is quite nice.
My soft mammal body couldn't really survive very well otherwise, you know. At least I don't think it could. Maybe it could. But am I walling off that in a way that I'm dishonoring myself? And that's a really big question, you know. How much nature do I need to hang in? What happens when I move myself into a more natural environment? Right? What happens when I step into nature for a week at a time, or, you know, where I'm mostly outside, or mostly outside, you know? What happens? And, you know, these are really good questions. To me, I move into a whole different state of being that's different than my city self.
So then, I mean, really, when I think about like connecting with nature and conversing with nature, that feels very, I want to say solitary, but also I want to say like personal and sacred, right?
Yeah.
And last episode we were talking about community and the need for community and the sacredness that it can hold. And so, like, maybe it's a stupid hypothetical, right? But if we go to those two extremes of personality, the extrovert versus the introvert, one of them wants to go and hike and be alone in the woods, and one of them wants to go in the middle of the jamming music society situation, right?
Yeah, noise trap.
Noise trap. Thank you. And so it makes me ask myself, like, okay, well, if it's as impactful as community or is it as impactful as community? Is it a part of community? Is nature just another member of our tribe? Or is it the battle of two gods within you and two things that need to be fed? Like, how does this all work with me? How does that relationship work?
Yeah, and I think you kind of like named it in there. Like, nature itself is community. It is an ecosystem. And I think part of what's broken right now is the fact that we convinced ourselves that we're not a part of that ecosystem, that we're somehow separate from it. We forgot that our bones and blood and flesh are made of the same things as trees and rocks and grass. And orienting ourselves back into that ecosystem, I think, is a really important part of the process that we're in collectively. And also, let's do both. You know, another childhood memory where I felt absolute pure bliss was camping with my family, in the woods with my family. Oh. And then as I started having kids and my family would get together, my kids' memories of being in the woods for a week with their cousins and all the adults, like, we were just there to be together. And, you know, sure, there was some cooking and fire building to do, but like so much more availability for care and presence of each other than in our, you know, city lives. And so carrying that template forward with me into what I feel like is part of my, you know, calling or mission or purpose or whatever is community building that is connected to earth, that is replugged into the larger harmonious ecosystem that we're a part of. And so that time that we've had at Wisdom Sanctuary with this land has been really profound. because what happens when you bring people together with land, where everyone's listening to each other and also to the land and also to life. And some of the experiences that just emerged that were so nourishing for me individually, for the group, for the land, was really surprising and beautiful. And one of the things that presented itself to us at kind of at the end as we were reviewing, okay, what happened here over this last week that we spent together, was the nature and importance of dyads. And Cedar, because you kind of brought that in earlier, I want you to go.
Yeah, I'm actually going to expand that idea and talk about ourselves as single, because when in the Bill Plotkin's stuff, is Anna's Valley Institute, what they do is they take people on vision fasts, and so you go out and you do a 4-day solo fast in the wilderness by yourself. But the point of that is to bring back your gift to community. Right? So you start as an individual, and an individual in nature feels themselves in a different way. I notice a couple things that happen. I slow down. I stop overthinking things. I move into a rhythm, more of a rhythm in my thoughts, in my walk, in my speech. I move into rhythm. And I want to do rhythm in nature. Music happens just through me. I want to sing as I walk through the woods, Disney character like. And so, so you got to understand, myself as an individual is always connected to my family, to my community, right? Even if I'm by myself, the reason why I'm by myself, and this is what nature does, is it creates individual process, so that process then honors its community. Like it gets, move out to move in. Mm-hmm. I find myself so that myself can offer what it is to the greater whole, which is its satisfaction, is its purpose. I'm never going to go out in the wilderness and find myself and lose myself there and stay. Or maybe I will, but I think that's a dysfunction. I'm going to find myself and I'm going to go, hey guys, I am again, I'm better. And then relationship is interesting because what happens is I have a relationship with every individual thing in the universe, the greater, the more than human, the human, I have this relationship with each thing that is, right? And that individual relationship affects all the other relationships. So when I think about it, I have this relationship with myself, and that relationship then expresses itself in the relationship I have with other beings. And this place, and this is why I think people assume monogamy, and why I think monogamy is a very effective way to do relationship. Certainly,
it is a very effective.
It is a very effective way at a level of being, right? And I think, and the reason why we assume it as the natural thing about people, right? Not only families, etc., but I think we assume it as the natural thing. I am myself a polyamorist, so that's how I experience my relationship field. But the reason why monogamy happens is because this dyad becomes powerful, right? And we assume that in a dyad, that dyad then needs a container, right?
That it's exclusive of anything else.
Exclusive of anything else, which is true to a point, right? The truth is, all dyads release into community, right? And then there's no true monogamy because every relationship then serves the greater community, right? Now, people, sexuality and how they express that, whatever, is up to them, but there's no true dyad. There's no true, we're an institution and we're going to just do this and this is the thing we're doing. Anybody that tries to do that soon goes to war and it dies. The thing goes in, turns in on itself and dies. But dyad that then has a family, finds a purpose, that might be those two strengthening each other and doing their thing, or they might be that group, that dyad doing something together. It doesn't matter, right? But I support, you support, I know you deeply, intimacy, all that happens, and then it can create a broader thing. One of the things that somebody in the field that has worked with businesses forever, our friend Carrie, talked about at the field is that how when they went to go work at an organization, it's always the dyads. So usually the problem wasn't with the organization, it was with a couple of the relationships within the organization. Mm-hmm. It was like this person and this person aren't getting along.
Right.
And that then is creating disharmony in the larger field, right? So it's really interesting to think about that, because I can go in and I can see what my relationship is with each person, and I have experiences with each person. Even if I'm in an experience within the group, even if I'm with 3 people or 4 people, I'm having an experience with each of those people, right? Mm-hmm. Like my experience is this way, and then my experience is this way, and then those relationships have relationships.
Yeah.
Right? But it comes down to my personal relationship having this, and this is where it meets. Right? Like, mm-hmm. So if I want to work on a group feel, if I want to really do that, then I really work on seeing individuals, seeing the people that I'm in a relationship mm-hmm. with, and what do they need? How do I serve them? What requests do I have for them? And then getting as clear on that as possible will help me in some certain way that then clarifies the field in general, right?
Yeah, and each time a dyad is, purged or clarified or strengthened, the entire field gets to level up.
Yeah. Yeah, and the problem with monogamy as we think about it is that it eats itself. Mm-hmm. The purpose of the relationship is the relationship, which is never the case. It just doesn't exist in nature. Like the purpose of the relationship is always to be part of the ecosystem, mm-hmm. right? Always serves the lower the hierarchy that is smaller in its scope, not its importance, but its scope, mm-hmm. always serves the higher hierarchy, right? In talking about hierarchy, not in a power sense, but in just a natural expression of levels of being, right? So one of the things that I think nature does is it moves our own thoughts about our relationship into ecology, which is naturally served. And so then I think about what is the emotional ecology, right? What is the relational ecology? And that is that if I can create harmony here, then that harmony will serve mm-hmm. broader. And then that harmony will serve broader. And that harmony will serve broader, right?
And as each level of that hierarchy is strengthened by what you're bringing, it also then supports you better. Mm-hmm. So instead of eating itself, the system will feed itself. Mm. And so, you and I having things like clear and powerful and beautiful between us and bringing that to a field lifts the entire field. And then also our relationship and each other as individuals actually gets nourished by that field.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the opposite of this, like, we have to stay together. The most important thing is we stay together, even if us staying together is harming either or both of us. And that's what we're bringing to the field.
then it becomes,
and then that actually becomes right. a poison to the field.
Right.
And so it's almost like we got to flip that. And that doesn't necessarily mean that anybody needs to become not monogamous, but as like, I think all 3 of us have experienced, our original monogamous marriage had to change.
Yeah, I think that I go back to something that Cedar was saying about the relationship existing for the sake of the relationship is not really a thing that can exist, right? Mm-hmm. And that to me, like, oh my God, if you want to see examples of that, just come to Utah in the spring to summer and just watch the droves of 17 to 19-year-old children getting married because they're worried that 20 means they're a spinster.
Right.
Not because they love anyone, not because they've found the one. Usually, like, we have one of the highest divorce rates in the country, right? Along with suicide and mental health. Like, go Utah.
And boob jobs.
And boob jobs, yes. Number one plastic surgery in the country. Which I can't say I hate. You know, like, but whatever. But you see them all. And what are they getting married for? 9 times out of 10. Why did you get married at 19? Well, I was getting old. Bullshit. According to what? Right? It's fear. Mm-hmm. It's relationship for the sake of the relationship itself. Mm-hmm. And what happens? Either they find a way to actually be the dyad that's in the center of change and bettering each other and blah, 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 blah. God bless. Or they fucking implode. Mm-hmm. Because both people are out for themselves and just there for the sake of the relationship, and there's not enough connection or commitment to maintain any kind of dyad if the only reason you're there is for the sake of it itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
And it itself being a symbol of kind of false security, aka your own fear.
Or exactly right. And so, like, that to me was what had to change when I got married the second time. Wasn't even like the way that I showed up in the relationship necessarily. I still struggle with the same things. I still am better at different things. But it was the reason for entering it and the person I entered it with, right? It wasn't, hey, I've been fat my whole life and this is the first person who actually loved me regardless. I'm going to marry this because I want that, right? And she was there out of fear. 19-year-old, 21-year-old spinster by the time we were actually married, right? Not a thing, people. Not a real thing. But then, like, this time around, like, marrying my best friend, you know, marrying someone who I started off in a co-worker, coach, like, bettering each other relationship. That's what our whole purpose was the first year that we were friends, right? And turning that into a marriage and a family. Like, I'm not married for the sake of being married. I'm married to this woman because she makes me the best version of myself and I do the same for her. And then we go out and kick ass. Whether it's in our workplaces or our relationships. Like, her family relationships have never been healthier than since we got married. Right? Because I gave her the boundaries that she couldn't give herself. You know? And my professional relationships have never been better since we got married because her ability to read people allowed me to see the opportunities to grow and move on and get better at my career. Like, that symbiotic relationship, that's the relationship we see in nature. That's what's up with penguins that mate for life. That's what's up with, you know, the shrimp and the shark, or whatever, the fish and the shark that are symbiotic related, whatever they are, right? That's what it is in nature. Is not one, like, parasitic relationships kill something. They kill the host or they kill the parasite, right? Symbiotic relationships are there for the benefit of each other and themselves. And that's the kind of dyad that works in human relationships. Yeah. So whether you're monogamous or polyamorous or quadrupolous, right, and whatever. I don't even know what that means.
Well, this is what happens. what happens is in polyamory is just the opposite. Is people define themselves against a dyad. And so they end up operating in ways that are disharmonious in the other way, right? So they end up having experience for experience sake rather than working with individuals to reflect back on them in whatever way they're working with them, so that life can happen more freely and supported with all, right? And, you know, that includes sexually, that includes material, that includes emotionally, all the ways that people can work together to move energy. What happens is we end up identifying the institution as a thing, and the thing is a thing, and now we have to support the thing rather than supporting the life that's at the center. So again, nature moves us out of that naturally. It moves us into a type of harmony. So, you know, this experience on the land in California, we go there, a bunch of people are coming and going, people have their own reasons for being there. We all feel called to that. And I could feel in each experience I had there with other people, with each individual and with the group, I could feel the medicine there. And I think what happens in nature, and I think what we talk about as medicine, is largely energies from the earth moving through our systems, right? And so my medicine that I hold only is real when I enter a process with somebody that then that energy moves in a harmonious way, right? And there was so much medicine shared.
Yeah.
On this place.
I love that idea of like, you know, our medicine being some kind of fruit or essence, or, you know, you think of like the medicine of a rose or the medicine of a rosemary bush, or, you know, and that all of those things are so connected and given to life that their essence comes through so purely. And I feel like this like joy rising up in me and thinking of each of us like that, like discovering what is life wanting to offer to everyone else through us. And there's something about the land that provides us I don't know, like a stronger concentration of that or something.
Yeah, you know, the fruit falls and nourishes the grass and also plants a seed, you know, like, or the person, and then they shit out the seed and the plant grows, you know, like we all have medicine, and we have medicine for other people. And I would say that every single person, in a way, has medicine for every single person, because there's a unique expression that happens in any connection, right? And then some of those are allowed to be so deep, and there's a value there. And some of those are allowed to be non-existent. Like, my medicine for this person is to stay away from them.
Yeah.
Right? And whatever it is, it allows the natural harmony of life flows when that container is kept, right? And that just simply is. See, we think we're doing things, but it's like nature is, and the isness is connected to when we move into intention, people. So what I saw on the land is intention, is spontaneous ceremony. I saw a lot of conversations. I saw a lot of touch and process and just life shared. I saw war move into harmony, and I saw land teaching. You know, but the secret of teaching is it just is. You know, it's a revelation. And it's a revelation. Truth, yeah, it's a revelation. It's not a like cleverness about it. You know. And in that place, thoughts, ideas, process just flows. And then you just drink from that well over and over again. You know, that's the vision of community. It's a happening. It's a surrendering to what is, so that life is just there. You know. And it's just abundant. It's just in the field. It's just like, oh. How do we create more of that? Yeah.
And I think that you know, my gratitude is that I'm having more and more of the experiences where I get to touch it, I get to practice it, I get to learn and bring that into my own process, and then that also kind of becomes part of my essence. It becomes part of my gift to the other people that I interact with when I come back from those experiences. They differentiate us in a way that our gift becomes a little bit more clear and a little bit more potent.
Well, you've wasted another perfectly good hour listening to Conversations with Life.
Hopefully they were doing other things, like
kidding.
dishes or something. Like you can multitask with an audio version.
No, we appreciate your relationship with us. We appreciate that you're here and that you are, in fact, in this with us. Thank you for being in the conversation. And I hope the conversation serves you in your endeavors. Asking what life is doing with you now. And how can you share that life and how can you celebrate that and meet that with whatever is in your day today? And then go and tell everybody how awesome this podcast was and that every single person in the world needs to listen to this. And it'll be awesome. Appreciate you so much. Have a fantastic week. See you soon.